Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Roy's Tie-Dye Sci-Fi Corner. This is episode number 254, Heaven Can Wait, the classic 1978 film starring Warren Beatty, Julie Christie, James Mason, Jack Warden, and Buck Henry. And with me tonight to talk about this film from the classic 70s is my friend, my co-host, the one and only Mr. Ross Amico. Ross, welcome.
Thank you, Roy. Thank you, and welcome back.
Thanks so much, Ross. You know what's funny? I had all this angst saved up, and I was going to give it a real powerful, warm welcome, and then it's like, you know what? Couldn't do it.
Well, it sounds like you got your energy back. You know.
Yeah, I'm working my way through, but it's great. It's great to be here, and I can't believe it's been 5 weeks, Ross, since we did the show the last time, and that was we did When Worlds Collide.
I know.
That was
before you got hit by the you got hit by the planet and the asteroid or whatever the sun. So how long's it been now?
The last time we did a show was January 31st, which is my cousin Liz's birthday. And that was, it was a Friday night. So it's literally been 5 weeks. When I think about everything that's taken place in the last 5 weeks, it's just, it's crazy.
I know, but how long since how long's it been since you, I don't want to say too much. I don't know what you want to reveal. So
it's okay. Everybody knows. I mean, I've talked about it. Today is actually day 16 post-surgery, which is crazy. And that's, for the folks out there that don't know, I basically had a double bypass. But happy to be here, happy to be alive. And I just want to say thank you to everybody out there that's, written, as far as, posts and messages and phone calls and texts. And, just so many, wonderful friends and family of friends out there, and just everybody. It's just been, it's been very heartwarming, but very scary too. It's just, I don't know. It's, it's just really bizarre. You start thinking about things that you normally don't think about. So
I imagine, yeah. But the recuperative power of the human body, isn't it amazing? Because even a week ago, you sounded pretty tired.
Yeah. And honestly, with I've been really doing the walks. It's they gave me a list of exercises to do, which is really important. And as far as at home, but then in regards to walking is so important. I mean, years ago, my understanding is they wouldn't actually have you do that. They would basically, you'd be laid out in the bed and you're just recouping. After the day after the surgery, they want to get you up into the chair, and they want you to be sat up, and then they want you to be walking as soon as possible. And right now I've been averaging about between a mile and a mile and a quarter for the whole day. So what I'm doing is I'm splitting it up, doing walking in the morning and then walking in the afternoon. And it's just, when I think that I couldn't even walk down the corridor or take a few steps, it was because it was just, it's almost like I had to relearn it, which sounds ridiculous because it was only a couple days after everything had happened. But it just, it's crazy. But like you said, the recuperative powers of the human body is amazing.
Yeah, I should have contacted everybody and had everybody drink to Roy, everyone.
Thanks, Ross. I'm drinking cranberry juice, so
all I have is water tonight. So
so it's.
But it just as a warning to everybody, it hurts when Roy laughs. So it's gonna be an extra unfunny episode tonight.
Yeah. So if I start laughing too much, I have my St. Luke's Heart Vascular Center pillow, and what I'm supposed to do is I'm supposed to clench it. So that's to help with the laughing. So if I start laughing like Muttley, you'll know why.
Yeah, we're on the phone. Roy could only laugh like Muttley.
No, I just channel it through. But I want to say hi to the folks that are out there. So let me see here. I see Jeff Rubel is joining us from out west. Hey, Jeff from Utah. He said that opening never gets old. Groovy baby. Yeah, that's thanks to my friend Jeffrey Morris, who did the opening credits and everything. So that tune just really rocks. So thank you to Jeffrey as always for that. I see that Lou is out there. Welcome, Lou. He's joining us from Rhode Island. Great to see you out there. Also, Shari's downstairs. Hey, hon. And she said, hey, guys, missed you. And Randy Lee. Randy's joining us from Wisconsin. He's saying, good evening. Was this pick related to your recent healthcare? Actually, or scare, excuse me. I'm saying healthcare. It's health scare. Yeah. Well, I'm not wearing my contacts. I'm wearing my glasses. And as you can see, it's not really helping. Yes, Ross and I were talking about trying to come up with movies. And I don't know, Ross. I don't remember. Did you suggest the title or did I say it?
I don't know if you did, if one of us said it as a play on what we were saying, and either you said it or I said it, and the other person said, yeah, let's do that.
I mean, it only seemed appropriate because I mean, it's like Heaven Can Wait. I mean, with everything. Yeah. So
as opposed to every other week where one of us suggests a title and then we fight about it for 20 minutes and then say, I have to think about it.
Yeah, no.
We immediately jumped on this one. So
no, we definitely did. And also I want to say too, and I'm we're talking about myself. My mom was, I mean, originally with everything. I mean, when I got back from the UK and everything, for that awesome Space 1999 convention, that I'm going to give a shout out to Warren because he's out there and that organized and everything went so well with that. I mean, it was a grand slam out of the park. But with that, everything just kind of happened with my mom, and the last like 5 months, 6 months have been the focus of that. With that, and then on top of it, Shari's been dealing with her health issues too. So it's just been one thing after the other. But in regards to my mom, that hit first, and then she was going to have the aortic valve replaced, which she did and was successful. And again, everybody, thank you for all your messages and everything, just, concerns and everything in regards to that. But the irony is her surgery was on the 18th and then mine was on the 19th. I mean, we were literally, the next day. In fact, she got discharged. And when she got discharged, I went into her room. I mean, it's just, it doesn't get weirder than that. So,
yeah,
but I want to say hi to Nick McCarty. Nick's out there. Welcome, Nick. Great to see you out there. Thanks, hon. Saying looking good. Hey, Vince is out there. Hey, Vince. Thanks for joining us. He's joining us from Lopakong. I'm sorry, Stewartsville, Vince. I'm sorry. My mind's slipping a little bit. And Warren is out there, which I said before. He said Roy and Ross equals RR Diner. If you know the reference, I think Ross does. I think I know what that is too. It's got to be a Twin Peaks reference. And Jeffrey will says, just don't digress and you'll be fine. Excuse me, Jeff. Have we met? Corey's joining us from Canada. Hey, Corey. Thanks for being out there. Great to see you out there. Martin is joining us from New York. Welcome, Martin. Great to see you out there as always. And I see Ruth is out there. Hey, Ruth. Good to see you out there. Thanks. And thanks for the welcome back. Very much appreciate it. And she's joining us from, I'm going to say Harmony Township. And Shari said, love this movie. So funny. The actors who played the staff were hysterical. Yes, they were. And Dave Rash is out there. Hey, Dave. Dave is joining us from Florida. Thanks, Dave, for the welcome back. And great to see you out there. And Nick is out there. Nick is joining us from Pennsylvania. He said, quite a CD collection, Ross.
Yeah. Well, I've been in radio for a long time.
Yeah. There's a big backstory to that, Nick.
Yeah.
And thanks, Nick. Appreciate the.
Plus, I live close to Princeton Record Exchange, so all those little green tags you see back there, they're all $1.
$1 in a dream, Ross.
$1 in a dream. Yeah, when you got them back in the '80s, they were a lot more than $1.
Yeah, isn't that the truth?
Now they can't give them away, except to me.
And you're there to scoop them up.
I am. I'm here to scoop them up, burn them into my computer.
But yeah, I mean, this film, I remember seeing this film. Now, I did not see this movie in the theater. Heaven Can Wait. But I did see it on Prism, which was, of course, like the equivalent to HBO back in the day. Excuse me, it was like the premium channel. And I think I saw this movie for the first time. It was probably, I'm going to say, sometime in late 78, probably more like 79. How about you, Ross? Did you see this in the theater, or did you just see it?
I did. My parents loved this movie.
Yeah.
In fact, I told my stepfather today that we're doing this. He said, "Oh yeah," he remembered all the characters' names. He remembered everything about it because my parents saw it a couple of times. In fact, when I went to see it with them, and it was not the first time they saw it. They took me because they enjoyed it so much.
Oh, that's really cool.
They thought it was hysterical. Dyan Cannon and Charles Grodin, they loved it.
Yeah. I mean, they were like the comic relief.
Yeah.
That and the wait staff, like Sherry was saying, the wait staff at the for
right.
Farnsworth.
Yeah. Right.
But yeah, I did not realize all the backstory about this film. Now, this movie was released back in the day, June 28th of 1978. It had a budget of $6 million, and it actually did very, very well at the box office. It actually made almost 99 million. So it definitely was a box office sensation. Want to say hi to May. May's joining us from Canada. Thanks, May. Great to see you out there. Appreciate that.
But yeah, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead, Ross.
No, I was just going to say it was nominated for a ton of awards.
9 Academy Awards, including Best Picture, Best Director. Interesting enough, too, with this film, there was 2 directors, which was Warren Beatty and also Buck Henry. And I thought that was very interesting. Buck Henry, of course, immediately I recognized the name back in the day because I was a huge Get Smart fan. And he was one of the co-creators, and he was a writer for Get Smart. So that I made that connection back in the late 70s when I saw his name for this film.
And The Graduate.
That's right.
Yeah. And then, of course, he was always in the 70s. He was always on Saturday Night Live. And, Buck Henry was certainly a known quantity.
Yeah, and I read that. I guess he did something like 10 guest appearances for Saturday Night Live as far as being like a guest host. Yeah. So he was ranking pretty high in regards to that.
Yeah.
What's Up, Doc? I think he also did. And
did he write for it? Because it was Peter Bogdanovich that directed it, but he may have written it. I don't know.
I think he may have written it, and then also what was it? The Owl and the Pussycat.
Oh, okay, with George Segal.
Yeah. Okay. He was responsible for that too.
Okay. Yeah, he's definitely an active as a writer, and Elaine May co-wrote the screenplay with Warren Beatty, who adapted it from an earlier film, which in turn was adapted from a play from 1938. So
I know, and now that was Henry Segal's play, and it was
no relation to George Segal, Harry Segal, who spelled it with 2 L's. Yeah,
and like you said, it was a 1938 play, and then what happened was the first movie they did it was called Here Comes Mr. Jordan, and that was 1941, 3 years after the play. Mm-hmm. And then what they did was they did another movie, which was called Heaven Can Wait, but had nothing to do with the Harry Segal play. Then they did a sequel to Here Comes Mr. Jordan, which was Down to Earth, I think it was called.
Right.
And that was in 1946, 1947. And there was a couple of actors that were in that were also in the Here Comes Mr. Jordan.
Right.
Now, the other thing is with Here Comes Mr. Jordan, it starred Robert Montgomery. And I knew the name, but then I didn't make the connection. But that was Elizabeth Montgomery's father.
Yeah.
And then Claude Rains was also in it, and he played Mr. Jordan.
Absolutely. And Edward Horton was in it, who was a big comic actor. He was always kind of the sidekick, playing comic roles. And also James Gleason, who was in the Frank Capra movies. He's in The Bishop's Wife. He plays the cab driver in that. And he plays the editor in I forget if it's Mr. Mr. Smith Goes to Washington. So if you've seen these movies, you know who Paul Gleason is. He was nominated for Best Supporting Actor. Just like this one, the original one was nominated for a ton of awards. And in fact, was, also very well received. So.
Yeah, definitely a lot of history. And Ross had sent me the link, and I was going to try to look for the link for Here Comes Mr. Jordan, because I really wanted to check it out and first to see. And when I did, I was pleasantly surprised by the similarity, or there's a lot of similarities between the two movies. Yeah. However, Warren Beatty wanted to actually get Muhammad Ali to be in this film, and the 1978 version. But unfortunately, and Ali was going to do it, and he had, a friendship with him, but he was always busy because of, his bouts and everything. So what happened was he wound up recasting it, and he wound up taking the part, but he didn't want to do the boxing piece of it, but he felt that he was more of like he'd done football. So that's why that had been shifted. But in the original film, Here Comes Mr. Jordan, Robert Montgomery was playing a boxer.
And it's very interesting because he really tightened up all that stuff toward the end of the original film with the police inspector and everything. I'm glad that they changed it the way they did for the remake.
Yeah.
Usually when I see a remake of a classic movie, I don't like the remake as well. But I think he made some smart choices. Yeah. And having not seen Here Comes Mr. Jordan since the 80s, going back and watching it, I was surprised because when I was watching Heaven Can Wait, which I watched first this time, I was imagining it in a kind of a 1930s screwball comedy kind of thing, even though Here Comes Mr. Jordan's 41. But it has kind of that screwball rhythm to it. And I was imagining watching the Warren Beatty version. Okay, maybe Katharine Hepburn was the Julie Christie part, and maybe you would have somebody like Walter Brennan playing the Jack Warden part. So I was kind of imagining how this would play out. And then I went back and watched the original again. And to tell you the truth, when I saw it for the first time back in the 80s, I was not that crazy about it. And watching it again last night, I just felt like it doesn't snap. It doesn't crackle. Like some of those things when they make those screwball comedies, they really are on. For instance, Arsenic and Old Lace was a play before it became a movie. Right. And that's really a sharp film. They really got the rhythm going, and they've got a great cast like they do with Here Comes Mr. Jordan and like they do with Heaven Can Wait. But I felt like it didn't really work as well. But maybe it's just because I don't know why. The story won an award for an Academy Award for Best Original Story, and I can get that because the story is great. If you came to it fresh, not having seen all the different versions of it, I think it's a great idea to have, somebody pulled out of his body by a guardian angel, kind of like Clarence and It's a Wonderful Life or something.
Exactly.
Like a screw up. Yep. That would pull the guy out with the best of intentions so he wouldn't experience his death, only to discover he wouldn't have died in the accident. Can't get back to the body because the body's been
cremated.
And then all the complications of what ensues after that, where they're going to put him and all this kind of thing. So it's a great idea, but I just felt like it didn't, and I'm clearly in the minority because I think it gets 100% approval rating. I don't know what they go by, Rotten Tomatoes, the critical. I don't know how they rate that on Wikipedia, but it's like 100% approval for Here Comes Mr. Jordan. And I just always felt like there's a lot of stuff in the remake. While it's not perfect for me, that works a lot better than the original. I like James Mason. Claude Rains is a terrific actor. I love, but they give him like he just doesn't work because Everett Horton, who's the comic relief, plays the Buck Henry.
Right.
He towers over Claude Rains, and Claude Rains walking around his little Jarrell wig. It just doesn't work for me.
No, I get it. It's just the chemistry was different. The dynamics were definitely
dynamic was different. Yeah,
it very much did work in the 1978 version. Before we go on, Ross, I just want to say hi to a few people that are joining us. Pete Fultz is joining us. He's saying ahoy. Hey. And Nick just commented. He said, "My wife and I saw it together as teenagers at the former Lehigh Valley Mall Cinema. Funny part two for the price of one. Heaven Can Wait and Foul Play."
Whoa.
Oh, wow. Foul Play, that's with Goldie Hawn, right?
Yeah, and Chevy Chase. That would be a fun double feature. Yeah,
absolutely.
What was the name of that Lehigh Valley Mall Cinema, or was it called the Lehigh Valley Mall Cinema? Do you remember, Nick? Because I'm always thinking about that place. I remember the music they played with the trailers. Like,
And that movie theater was the theater I saw Rocky Horror for the first time in.
Right.
They did the midnight showings there.
I saw so many good movies, and that's back when I liked going to the movies. I would go and I'd get there in time to sit down and watch the trailers, and I just suck it all in. I'd see, oh, Frank Langella's going to be Dracula, and hi, Mary Beth. And
hey, I want to say hi to MB, Mary Beth. Hey, she's saying, good to see you back. Thanks, Mary Beth. Good to see you out there too. Thanks for joining us tonight. And Sue is saying, hey, Roy, John, and I send continued healing thoughts for you, your mom, and Shari. Thank you so much to Sue and John. Good to see you out there as well. Let me see here. And Nick is saying, I believe it was Lehigh Valley Mall Cinema or Theater.
Okay, so it was related to they actually named it with the mall. Yeah. I saw so many movies there. Well, our Friday night routine.
Time ago, Ross. My God.
Yeah, our Friday night routine was we would go to the Lehigh Valley Mall and then we go catch a movie. My family and I. And I get dropped off, and I could go to the arcade and Walden Books and Brentano's and.
You got Sue going. She said, Ross, that was the tune for the AMC theater. We had the jingle in the Boston area as well.
Yeah, well, they used it for the same thing, and it wasn't an AMC at the time.
No, it wasn't. That's even before the AMCs were around.
Yeah, but it's funny that everybody kind of use that kind of.
Yeah, it was like their theme, so to speak. We used to go to the what was it? The Easton Eric was the big one.
Yeah.
We talked about that on the show, and then there was the Easton Eric. Well, actually, the Eric in Allentown, and then there was the whatchamacallit, the Budco, which was at the 24th Street Shopping Center.
These were the chains, but we had the State Theater on Northampton Street.
State Theater, yep.
And then in Bethlehem, my favorite theater in the Lehigh Valley was the Boyd Theater, which sadly they tore down just a couple of years ago, but it apparently was shut for quite a while. But that was my theater of choice when I went to see a big movie, because it was a movie palace. It was about a medium. It wasn't like one of the huge movie palaces. It was like a moderately sized movie palace, but it had the big screen and it had great sound. And that's where I saw Superman for the first time.
Oh, wow. I think seeing Superman for the first time was at the Easton Eric, if I remember correctly. But
yeah, I missed that theater.
Yeah.
And of course, it was the 19th Street Theater in Allentown too. They had all the foreign films, but that was different. I saw good movies there too, but it was not quite the same. Wasn't visceral, Was
that by where the Civic Theater was at?
Which one?
The Civic Theater, wasn't that on 19th Street?
Oh, maybe they call it the Civic Theater now. Yeah. Back in the day, it was the 19th Street. When the movie theater was 19th Street, but maybe called the Civic Theater now. Is it near the fairgrounds?
Yes, right by the fairgrounds.
That's probably it. Yeah, I saw Walt Disney's Fantasia there. I saw a bunch of the Hitchcock movies that were not available. They got tied up, and I think Hitch pulled them and wouldn't allow them to be shown. But after he died, they went back on the market. So I got to see Vertigo and Man Who Knew Too Much and Rope.
I remember when they were re-releasing those films.
Yeah. Got to see all those there.
The classics.
Yeah. Fitzcarraldo I saw there, and Kurosawa's Ron. My Brilliant Career with Judy Davis, and Another Country with Rupert Everett. And we went there all the time for the stuff you wouldn't see normally.
Yeah, it's almost like what do they call those now? Art houses? I mean,
it was our Lehigh Valley Art House. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Cultural films.
But we digress.
As Jeff Rubel indicated, he said, as long as we don't digress, but
we're losing Roy already.
Yeah, at least we're that we're not pods, Jeff. Okay, it goes back to my original statement: we're not pods.
But Roy gives the history of this thing, and there's even more to it, because the original play, was Heaven Can Wait, but there was a title. The original title for it was It Was Like This, which is so nondescript. It's like the late Jack Nicholson comedy. It's like As Good as It Gets, or Something's Got to Give. It's like, I can never remember these titles. It Was Like This. It says nothing about it. Heaven Can Wait, much better title. But the problem was, when they made the movie, I was thinking, well, maybe it's because there's another movie, Heaven Can Wait, that was Ernst Lubitsch film with Don Amici. In it, and I thought, well, maybe they didn't want to confuse the two, because that happened with The Devil and Daniel Webster. They called it All That Money Can Buy because they didn't want to confuse it with another film from back then, Devil and Miss Jones. which is no relation to the one that came later. But anyway, it wasn't the case, but it was the case, because what happened was it wasn't the case because Heaven Can Wait came later, but it was the case because they bought the rights to the title. That's why they couldn't use it for the Here Comes Mr. Jordan. That's a very confusing. I know I'm not expressing it very clearly, but that's what happened.
I had to actually read through it like about 2 or 3 times just because I was a little bit slow on the uptake, but I finally got it. And I was like, wow. I mean, you're literally like jumping from point A to point B to point C, but then you go back to point A, but then A jumps to point D then, because there were so many remakes, there were so many sequels, and then there was the name changes, and then the movie that actually has the name has nothing to do with the original play, which is really bizarre in itself. It's like you said, they bought the rights to the title.
Yeah, because Here Comes Mr. Jordan's a terrible title.
Yeah,
it's an awful title. They were originally going to call it Mr. Jordan Comes to Town or something. It's just like,
yeah, I mean, that would have been a little bit better, but
you can't beat the title Heaven Can Wait.
No,
you know, it's
and it was interesting too, because I was talking to Bill Scarrato earlier today, and I didn't realize it, but they did Heaven Can Wait at the theater years ago. And I thought that was really cool. And he was telling me that Dean Schutte had played the role of Joe Pendleton, which, Warren Beatty's role. So I thought that was kind of cool. So, and I was interested, about other folks, a lot of folks back from the day of the theater that were in the show. It's kind of cool to hear.
And then the sequel was Down to Earth, as you said. Rita Hayworth was in that. They didn't have any of the original, but they had Edward Everett Horton came back as in the Buck Henry role, and Jack. What's it? I was going to say Brendan Gleeson, not the same guy. The guy who was in the Frank Capra movies.
Yeah,
James Gleeson.
James Gleeson. Yep.
Yeah. So he came back also. So, but other than that, it was a musical. The second one with dance, and so supposedly Xanadu bears a resemblance to it.
I was just going to say Xanadu is supposedly a sequel to one of those films.
Yeah, it must be a muse or something involved. Like the Rita must play a muse. I've never seen the sequel. I didn't even know the sequel existed, actually, Down to Earth.
I saw Xanadu back in, I think it was 1980, and Leslie's not out there. But we went, it was Leslie, and I remember Leslie's dad driving us there, and he had this big van, and we all like went in there. And I think Joe Metz, well, your cousin Joe, and those folks out there, Joe just celebrated his big birthday yesterday. So on the 6th. So happy birthday, Joe, in case you're tuning in.
Yeah.
But anyway, Joe Brickman, myself, Leslie, and I think a few other people too. So
it proves that we could go see anything. Because I saw it in the theater too. Well,
I was not a Xanadu fan though.
Yeah, it was crazy. But
in fact, you know what I think was playing opposite Xanadu, and I wish I had seen it instead, was Steve McQueen's film. What was it? That was the last one he did. The Hunter?
Was that what it was? Steve McQueen's The Hunter?
Yeah.
Where it was always the guy falling off the building in the trailer?
Yeah. I think that was his last film too, if I remember.
It might have been. I never saw it actually, but I saw the trailer plenty.
Yeah.
They were showing it every time we went to the movies. Yeah.
And I was like, I think if I recall, I was like, I would rather have been seeing that than Xanadu. I wasn't into it.
Yeah. Yeah. We saw just about everything, but I didn't see the Steve McQueen movie, sadly. And much less known, there was a Hindi remake. He's keeping track. All right.
They got their scorecards out, Ross. Look out.
They're looking out for you, Roy.
I know.
There was a Hindi remake, and apparently there was a porn remake, because there's a porn remake of everything. But there was a Debbie Does Dallas version of Mr. Jordan, apparently. I had no idea. I'd never heard of it. Everybody's going to call me on this, but I found it on Wikipedia. I assure you.
When in doubt, Ross goes to Wikipedia. Let your fingers do the walking through Wikipedia.
Yeah. So,
but as you were saying earlier, that we were talking about both films being nominated for Academy Awards. Now, this movie there was 9 nominations, and sadly, I think there was only one win, right? for the Academy Award.
Yeah, what was it? Was it for production design or something?
Yes, exactly.
Or art design. Yeah, you got to remember. Not you gotta, but it's useful to remember that the 1970s really look back with nostalgia to the 1930s and 40s. You had, I mean, a lot of these golden age people were still around. They were on Dick Cavett. They were on the Joe Franklin show. They'd be on Carson. You remember, I mean, Jimmy Stewart and Betty Davis were always on.
Always on Carson.
And they were still showing the monster movies. I've talked about this in the past, how these were such a big deal to us as kids. We're still watching Frankenstein and Dracula and the Wolfman, and the Marx Brothers were a big deal. Groucho Marx was, kind of in vogue. He had that big farewell concert at Carnegie Hall, but he was always on Dick Cavett. And so I mean, the 30s were kind of very much in the air. Peter Bogdanovich, who was one of the guys who was originally going to direct this film, did What's Up, Doc, which was a modern kind of screwball comedy, 1930s kind of bringing up baby kind of thing. So there was a lot of this in the air. It wasn't unusual that they would pull Heaven Can Wait out, and it was not an anomaly, But it is funny, though, because of the films that were nominated that year. I did look up what else was nominated, and this was the big year of the Vietnam movie, Coming Home, and The Deer Hunter were the big
John
winners.
Voight and
James
Deer Hunter was Robert De Niro, right?
And that was Robert De Niro, and Christopher Walken won his Academy Award for that. So, and it won Best Picture, and Michael Cimino won Best Director. So that was like that, and then Coming Home was John Voight and Jane Fonda both won for that. So that these swept the big awards, and you have this frivolous kind of comedy that was so, I guess because people loved it so much that it got all these nominations, but it got shut out pretty much. The only lighter win was Maggie Smith won for California Suite, I think it was, Neil Simon.
Yep. Well, it's interesting too, because when I think of Maggie Smith back from the 70s, my first time I saw her was in a film. Did you ever see Murder by Death? Neil Simon's Murder by Death?
Absolutely.
Love that film. Love that.
She's Miss Marple, isn't she?
No. She was married to David Niven's character. She was
it was a thin man. It was she was Nora.
No, yes.
Except they called her something else. But
right,
they were Nick and Nora, yeah. Right.
Yes, Nick and Dora Charleston.
Yeah.
That was the characters' names.
Yeah. So
some of the of course, Vince doesn't comment about anything, but then he comments and says that. Okay.
It was Debbie Does Dallas Again was the name of the porn remake. So you can look that up later tonight, Vinny.
Jeez. No, wait. You mean the movie that stars Patrick Stewart?
That would be such a. See, if SCTV were still around, they would do that mashup.
Hey, the Hague is out there. Hey, John. He's saying
hey,
John Savage also. There you go.
Right.
Hey, and Bill's out there. Hey, Bill. Good to see you out there. I was just talking about you a moment ago, saying how we were just talking about how the theater did Heaven Can Wait back in the day, and I was saying about Dean Schutte doing the role of Joe Pendleton. So thanks for being out there, Bill. But yeah. So yes, a lot of Academy Award nominations. Now Warren Beatty too. Now it's interesting because you were talking about watching Here Comes Mr. Jordan. I actually went back and I watched Shampoo because Shampoo came out in 75. And I thought it was very interesting because there's a little bit of an overlap with the cast because Jack Warden was in Shampoo. He was also nominated for an Academy Award in that film. And then as he was for Best Supporting Actor, as he was in this, sadly, he didn't win. Julie Christie was also in Shampoo as well as this, and had been in a relationship with Warren Beatty for about 7 years. And the interesting thing is they were not in a relationship when he did this film as well as Shampoo, but he had actually been credited as saying, that she really embraced the part of Betty in this movie, and it really made it too. So yeah, I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, he seemed to have been really fond of her. He dedicated Reds, I guess. I don't remember it, but he dedicated Reds to her also. Although he called her Jules Christie apparently in the credits. But yeah, they weren't together anymore. I'm not going to get into any of Warren Beatty's personal life because I don't, frankly, know. I mean, I know some stuff about him. You know, other than the fact that none of the directors that were approached to do this wanted to work with him because he's so controlling on the set. But, you know, you always hear about he's so vain and you know, about his love affairs and everything. But apparently they remained friendly after the break. Now, watching the film, I didn't notice, did they at any point actually kiss in the film, or did they just embrace before their final parting before the end?
I think they only embraced. I don't think they.
I thought that was very interesting because knowing that they were apart, I was wondering how they're going to play these scenes. Because in the original, they actually kiss, and that was kind of daring, I thought, because it was 1941,
right?
And there was that impediment to the relationship the whole time because he's still married, right, even though the wife is trying to kill him. You know what I mean? Yes. Now it's not like such a big deal, but back then that would have been a pretty even, you know, it would have been taboo. Gray area. What's that?
It would have been taboo.
It would have been kind of taboo, you know. I'm surprised that they even allowed that with the Hays Code, but I thought that they didn't actually kiss, and they kind of embrace, and you know, so
yeah, no, I'm 95% sure that they did not.
Yeah, I thought so. I didn't only watch it the once recently, so
gotcha. Yeah. Let's see. Sue's commenting, "Hey Roy, speaking of 20s and 30s nostalgia, John and I recently saw the great Twilight Zone episode with silent movie great Buster Keaton. The episode was a tribute to the silent movie era. However, we didn't realize the episode actually starred Buster Keaton until the credits rolled." Yes, yeah. In fact, Sue, Vinny, that's out there is a huge Buster Keaton fan, and I do remember that Twilight Zone episode very well because it was done as a silent episode. But yes, that was very well done. She also said, "Jeff, great merging of titles, very funny." And the Hague said, "The great Stanley Adams also." Yeah, Stanley Adams. Yep. Cyrano Jones. But I always enjoyed this film. The one thing that always kind of, and you know, it's a 48-year-old movie, so I'm not going to worry about giving anything spoilers away. So, you know, if you didn't see it.
If you haven't seen it, you haven't seen it.
You haven't seen it. But I really loved the comedic aspects. I love the dramatic aspects. The ending, not just to jump to the ending right away, but it's just that I was like, because, you know, the fact is that once he got all situated, he was going to lose his memory. But I thought the way they went about doing it and handling it really worked. However, with that said, this film was essentially a remake of Here Comes Mr. Jordan. I mean, in so many respects, it wasn't like, you know, there was implications. It was almost like they redid the script, and you know what I mean in regards to that. It wasn't they took some different types of liberties and everything to get creative. And I think I agree with you, Ross, having watched the first movie second, and then having seen the 78 version with Warren Beatty, I definitely prefer the 78 version over the
and as I say, I seldom find with the newer film. I usually go with the older one. But in this case, I think the newer one, there are aspects. For the most part, I think the newer one was better.
I agree.
And I think they handled the whole ending better. I thought it was they kind of telegraphed stuff too much in the old one. You know, there was not enough of it was more subtle. I mean, you knew that they were going to be together and everything, but it was not hit you over the head. It's, you know, where she has to repeat what he said earlier. It's like, if you see a guy and he might be a boxer, you know, this kind of and I'm not a guy who looks at old movies and say they're so corny and everything, but it was cornier than the newer version. Not that the new one wasn't insane and totally screwball. I love the fact too with what they did with the costumes and everything. There was such a stereotype of what you would imagine like a rich person to be. It's like, oh, you don't need Grey Poupon. They're all in, you know, they sit down, they dress for dinner. And at one point he's got the uniform with the medals, the polo outfits and stuff. It was hilarious.
And Dyan Cannon, I mean, Dyan Cannon is beautiful. And, you know, she's all glamored up. And then, you know, and then you have Charles Grodin, you know, he's trying to be like, you know, like he's has nothing to do with her. And
Yeah.
you know, and he's practically ignoring her and not having any type of interactions with her whatsoever. And then anytime he does acknowledge her, she like looks up and is like, she's like mortified because she doesn't know what to say in regards to his comments. And I mean, at one point, they try to take him out because they basically are trying to murder him is what they're doing. And they
Right.
actually succeeded. But then this was the opportunity for Joe Pendleton to come back because his body had been cremated, as we were talking about earlier. So he's looking for a substitute, but he really doesn't want, he wants to be a sports guy. He wants to be the quarterback. He wants to get to the Super Bowl. So that's what he's looking for. But he's swayed because of Julie Christie's character, because he's very much attracted to her, and he's sympathizing in regards to the scenario that she's trying to deal with the character of Farnsworth before Warren Beatty takes over his essence, his soul, so to speak. And he makes this arrangement with Mr. Jordan that it's only going to be like a temporary type of deal. But unfortunately, he starts to fall in love with Betty, Julie Christie. And
is this the plot?
Yeah, it really is, Ross. I kind of maneuvered it in there. And did you like the way I did that?
I knew because I was
Ross, as I was laid out on the bed and I only had my thoughts with me and pretty much couldn't do anything, I was thinking, there's got to be a way to maneuver the plot into the next show we do. I got to figure this out. So, a lot of brain power went into that.
It's okay. I'll wait.
No, I see you taking the stance of going back into your command chair, and it's like, okay.
Yeah. I had to plug the computer in. I didn't realize I didn't have it plugged in. The screen started to get dark.
No.
I know.
Ross is going to let me go solo on my.
Well, if it goes dark, then you just do the plot until I get back on.
This is where I grab the pillow, Ross, and I hold on tight and I laugh.
Well, you are laughing, yeah.
Oh shoot!
So it was the remake, the newer one, the '78 version, the Warren Beatty version was heightened, so it was more farcical. With them trying, with the wife having the affair with the secretary and them trying to kill him. It was much. It was played for laughs, and it was very farcical. Whereas in the original one, it wasn't quite like
right
to that extent, So I kind of like that they did that. Like I said, I like that with the costume design and everything, how amusing that was, and the fact that they didn't really update anything from what the Butlers were doing in the original version. In fact, the Butler even had the same name. I can't remember. What was it, Fisk or something? Was it?
Yes, something. Yeah. Something to that extent.
Sisk. Yeah. But yeah. And Warren Beatty himself, though, I have a hard time drawing a bead on him or getting him in the part, because I understand even with Robert Montgomery, having watched the original one, they're kind of like these everyman kind of guys. They're like a shot in a beer kind of guy. There's nothing, no pretense about them. It's like a dem D's and does kind of thing almost, except Beatty doesn't do dem D's and does, but he plays very innocent. Like for instance, with the board meeting, they have it in the original version, but in this version, he goes in there and he says, well, why do we have to be bad? Why can't we do it like this? Like in the original version, he just, doesn't come up with any solutions like that, right, other than the fact that he, pays all the money back to the people that he cons when he has them, what do you call it? When they invest or what have they, and the bad investments or what have you. But in the remake, he goes, well, why don't we do this and we shut this down? And if it's environmentally not sound, we got plenty of money. Why don't we do this? It's a very kind of naive kind of, all shocks kind of approach to things. And he kind of did it again in Bulworth a few years, like in the 80s or 90s. When was Bulworth?
I think it was in the late 80s, early 90s. I did not see Bulworth, but Jack Warden was also in that movie with him too.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because it was another kind of thing where the solutions were kind of oversimplified. But I kind of pictured, if they get in the original one, if they had gotten somebody like Gary Cooper to play or something. Well, for the wife, you should do the plot. I don't want to get in the way.
No, it's fine. But no, to your point about that, it was handled differently. But I thought it worked the way it was done with that, and he was really teeing off the some of the board members, because pretty much they were going to have to invest more money into the environmentally safe areas, because pretty much who he was before he took over Farnsworth's body. I mean, he was pretty much, like almost like a, I don't know. He was very shrewd. He was a shrewd businessman, and all of that changed because of his compassion that he had for Betty, Julie Christie's character. And she looks all dumbfounded when she's in that board meeting too. Like she can't believe what she's hearing, how he's trying to essentially help her. Because when he meets her for the first time, she's like on the attack and saying, that, all this needs to be done. She's traveled, hundreds or thousands of miles to get to him. And, she's not going to leave until he acknowledges what she wants, that, people are pretty much going to lose their lives, and it's just out of control. And that's the whole reason behind why he decides to try to help and do this as a temporary fix, but then wants to remain permanent. But of course, as Mr. Jordan says, destiny has to follow itself. And, Dyan Cannon and Charles Grodin's character, unfortunately, well, it's Charles Grodin that pulls the trigger during the cannon. And that you talk about Chekhov's gun, Ross. They kept showing it, like every other scene in the morning, when the cannon goes off, they're doing the blaring with the cannon as it's firing. And you're almost thinking that he's going to be taken out by the cannon. You know what I mean? Because it's just like laying the groundwork with that.
First couple of scenes I remember too. I don't remember the specifics, but there were a couple of remarks about some planning for their, your life, the future, or, they kept making kind of remarks, which was ironic because, he had no future and his life was going to end, but not end. Right. But I kind of got sidetracked there because I was trying to think of like who in the 70s could have played like that kind of 1930s, 1940s comedy. And I can't think, because Ryan O'Neal was no good at it either.
Oh, right. Because of Paper Moon, right?
Well, and What's Up, Doc? Paper Moon's a terrific movie. I mean, and What's Up, Doc is entertaining too. But people in the 70s were just so, the male leads in the 70s were just so different. That style of acting is so different. But yeah, I don't know. That's
the Hay comment. He said, I would probably like Beatty a bit more if he would finally let the Dick Tracy rights go so someone could make a good movie.
That's the thing. You know about this, right?
I don't know about
Dick Tracy. Yeah. He made Dick Tracy, was it like 1990, I think? 1990,
yep.
Disney wouldn't allow him to make a sequel. Apparently, I don't know if it's because the movie didn't make enough money, but there was for some reason he couldn't get a green light for a sequel. So what's Beatty do? He totally trolls Disney and he just doesn't relinquish that. Every 20 years or so, I think it's going to lapse. So he goes on TCM and does a mock interview in character and says this is his Dick Tracy sequel. And then Disney can't have it for another 20 years. So he's done it twice so far.
Ross.
He just did it a couple of years ago again. Disney's like, damn you. Nobody can do Dick Tracy now.
I did not know that story. That's hysterical. Good for him, though. Good for him.
Yeah,
that's
I
great.
know.
That's a story. I mean, you talk about jamming up the works, and I, you know what? As I look now and I'm looking around the corner, I see the Disney Patrol is probably out there, so we're probably in trouble. Mickey Mouse, Mickey Mouse is coming up the road, Ross. Speaking, I'm going to really digress, Jeff Rubel. So Captain Phil posted this the other day, and I was cracking about this because I guess one of the online I'll say it was on there. Hulu was showing Star Wars, and it was the unedited version. It was like the 77 version, where when it first came out, and when Jeff Rubel's like, no.
What?
I said,
what was this?
He just said no. So anyway, they were showing it it was streaming. So you could actually watch Star Wars online on one of the streaming services, which I just mentioned. And it was available. And I thought, how cool is that? But of course, how long it was going to stay on. And then I just saw something the other day that said, oh, it's been pulled. But I almost was thinking, are they doing this to test the waters to see if, I mean, the fact that Disney didn't pull it off right away. And I keep saying, when 2027 comes along, darn well they're gonna say, oh, we've got the original films, the original 35 millimeter cut. We're gonna re-release it on Blu-ray, high definition, Star Wars as it was back in 1977. Is yours for the incredible low price of $49.99 or whatever. And that's probably being generous. And and they'll make like $1 billion from it. They could sell it for like $100 because it's like the versions that are out there. If you're lucky enough to have a VHS copy or maybe a beta copy, you're pretty much lucky if you have that. But supposedly nothing's been available. So
yeah, I hope you're right, and I hope they don't do something stupid like color corrected, or I hope they don't screw with it. I just want it restored. I want it the way it was.
Yep, I'm totally with you. And you know what? It's like Han Solo shot Greedo first too. I'm sorry. Oh, God. There I said it.
Yeah.
Disney. Vince is saying Disney owns Hulu. Okay, I didn't know that, Vince. But the point. Okay, so that even better, Vince. So they were showing it, and it was streaming. I didn't get to it in time, but
interesting. I had no idea. When was this? Recently?
This week.
What? How?
What? How?
I had no idea. I mean, I have the original cut on that. There was I have the VHSs, which I never took out of the shrink wrap, the set. But I have, at some point, they did a double clamshell with the one of the tinkered versions with the original cut, but they didn't clean it up at all. So when you watch like 2 seconds of the newer thing, it really upsets you because it looks so good. But the older one I do have. It probably still says episode 4. It probably doesn't go back that far. I don't remember. But yeah, I want a nice cleaned up version of it.
I know. It's like, why? I don't know. The Higgs, supposedly they put the original version on DVD also. Not sure which version.
Yeah, I could go grab it out of the room if you want to see which one it is. It's not hard for me to lay my hands on it. But it was really disrespectful. It's like, you want it, here it is.
Right. Yeah.
And here's my nice crisp one that I ruined.
It's always good. It's always good to have a backup, right?
What gets me about movies like this, the old movies and the newer movies, whenever you have a character that's beyond the physical realm, whether it's supernatural or if it's whether it's an angel or a ghost or what have you, there's always an issue with the actor who plays, or the character who plays the lead, can never get into his head that other people can't see this person, and he still speaks to them in the room. Right. It's like, how long would it take you to catch on to the fact that you don't want to talk to Mr. Jordan when there are other people in the room?
Right.
Well, they do this all the time. They did it in Topper, How many movies can you think of where they do that? They've done it in more recent movies too.
Oh yeah, it's a plot point that's been.
Who are you talking to?
Right. Exactly.
But I guess we find that funny. So, but I find it a little frustrating. Yeah.
I'll share some images. Now, here was the movie poster, and I always thought this was interesting because, there's, Warren Beatty's character, Joe Pendleton, with the wings, but never depicted in the film that, in that manner.
And that's not a smartphone in his hand.
And yeah, exactly.
Or an iPod.
So, just to remind everybody, there's Warren Beatty, Julie Christie, James Mason.
The Mr. Jordan scenes and the Heaven Can Wait scenes that are in the way station on the way to heaven are very close. I was pretty impressed how closely they matched with the clouds and the plane. Did you notice Lloyd Bridges was the pilot?
I thought that was him, Ross.
Yeah,
I did. Yes.
He has like one line. Yeah.
Yes. I didn't realize it was him, but I was like, he looks really familiar.
Yeah.
There's Charles Grodin and Dyan Cannon. I was cracking too because in the one scene, Charles Grodin's character is shacked up in the bed with Dyan Cannon, and then what happens is there's a knock at the door, and it's Warren Beatty, Joe Pendleton. He's not Joe Pendleton, he's the other guy, Farnsworth.
Yeah.
And then Charles Grodin jumps out of bed, and then Warren Beatty's talking to Dyan to Dyan Cannon and saying to her character, you don't love me, I don't love you. Let's get a divorce, and it was just like, oh my God. And then he addresses Charles Grodin, and then he says, "Are you getting that?" And then he responds, and then it's like, you idiot, why did you respond?
He's hiding behind the curtains.
Exactly. There's Buck Henry.
Yeah, look at this cast. You got Vincent Gardenia. You got Jack Warden. Yeah.
Incredible cast.
Yeah.
Here's some movie moments. I just took some shots from the film. Walking through the mist.
And I think that's great that they got James Mason. Originally, he wanted Cary Grant to do it.
And Cary Grant had been in a relationship, married to Dyan Cannon,
right.
and she pretty much Warren Beatty was even trying to get Dyan Cannon to get him to come out of retirement, because he had been retired for like about 12 years at that time, which isn't a long time by that those means. It's really scary too, Russ. I was trying to figure out like what his age would have been, and he would have been somewhere like around 60, 61.
Really?
At that time, yeah.
I love Cary Grant, but I'll tell you though, I don't like his late movies. I'm like, I think he hit his peak with North by Northwest. It seems like every movie he made after North by Northwest is like almost unwatchable. It's like Father Goose. It's Petticoat Junction, or not Petticoat Junction. What's Operation Petticoat? Is that what it is? Operation Petticoat.
And he wouldn't have. And honestly, thinking about it, so you figure there's North by Northwest came out in when 59, and this movie was 78. So that's 19-year difference. And you figure this film was shot in 77. So you're talking about 18 years, and he had been retired for about maybe like 12. So he only made a few more movies after North by Northwest.
Yeah, I mean, and don't get me. I mean, Charade, is passable, but I mean, any of those other ones, the late ones, I just can't stand them. Yeah. I like him, but it's hard for me to get through those movies. No, like anything he made before North by Northwest is gold.
Right. Hey, Bill, thanks for joining us.
Yeah. But so that would have been something to see him. But you know what? I don't think he would have done better than James Mason.
I thought James Mason knocked it out of the park. I thought he was good.
He brought real authority to it, and because Cary can play. He can do shaded characterizations, and he can do weird, dark. I don't know if you ever saw The Bishop's Wife, where he plays an angel.
No,
it's a Christmas movie with. It's a great movie. It's got Loretta Young and David Niven. Definitely check it out next year. But Cary plays an angel who comes down to help David Niven, but he causes all kinds of trouble too. So, he's got a little bit of an edge to him.
Gotcha. I thought this was funny when he was like he was trying to convince him that who he was, Jack Warden's character, that he was really Joe, and then he was back, and then he cracks him in the neck. Yeah,
they added that for this one too, with a crack of the neck. But the saxophone was
part of the original.
Yeah, except it was a soprano sax in the remake, and it was an alto sax in the original. I don't know if you noticed that or not.
I noticed it was different, and also the tune he was trying to play was an old Italian ballad. It was called, I'm going to butcher this name, Ross, Cerberin.
Cherry Berry Bean.
Thank you. I knew you'd get it.
Cherry Berry Bean.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a standard, but in the original, it's The Last Rose of Summer.
Okay.
That he plays, which is kind of funny to see him playing it in the airplane with the saxophone. Yeah, because in the original, it's a plane crash, and in this one, they which one's a wonderful movie? Oh, Bishop's Wife. Yeah,
Bishop's Wife.
Yeah. He plays it's an airplane in the original, and in this one, it's the
he's riding his bicycle. He goes to the tunnel.
Right. Yeah. Right. which is a little more believable. I don't know about him surviving that plane crash.
Yeah, I know that was a little bit out there.
Yeah.
But
And again, I love Claude Rains. I just don't think he was, what could he do with the part though? I don't know.
oh, Shari just reminded me of something, and I was going to bring this up. So watching this for this movie, I hadn't seen it in years and was going through it. So when he was trying to, and this is piggybacking off what we were just saying too, Ross, in regards to surviving. So he is at like the way station to go to heaven, and he's telling Mr. Jordan, that you must have a mistake. I know I survived. I shouldn't be here. So then what happens is he has the records checked, and it's verified that he's not going to pass away until 10:17 a.m. on March 20th. And this is the kicker, 2025.
Yeah.
Like, whoa. And, and it's like, and you're thinking about it, and it's like, okay, that's not that far away, but in which it isn't. But at that time, with this movie coming out in June of 78, that's 47 years later. It's almost 50 years later.
Yeah.
And it was like, and that to me just cinched it as far as us covering this film too, because it's like, today's the 7th. So, yeah. I mean, it was just really bizarre. So anyway, Shari.
Oh, there it is. Yeah. It's like they have Back to the Future Day when everybody celebrates when, you remember it was a big deal when we got to the date that the Back to the Future Part 2.
Yep.
When was that? You remember?
Oh, wait a minute. Don't say it. Was it, it's either October or November. And wasn't it in 2015?
Was it? Yeah. I knew it was a while ago, but not that long ago.
Because the movie took place in
85.
85. So 30 years later. So it would be 95. Yeah, it was because he goes 30 years in the past and then 30 years in the future.
Okay.
So, and what's scary is that's like 10 years ago already. And I remember, to your point, when Back to the Future Day was, it was like talking about it.
I don't think people are going to be celebrating Heaven Can Wait Day, though.
Well,
we'll be the only ones.
Hey, Sean, thanks for joining. He's saying, hey, guys, I love this movie. I remember seeing it in the theater with my mom in 78. I haven't seen it in years. We'll have to rewatch it. Yeah. No, thanks for coming on, Sean. And it's a great film. It's definitely a feel-good movie. Shari said, seems so far away at the time when I saw it in the movies. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
I remember we saw it in Philly, I remember.
Quick check on Warren Beatty.
Yeah.
Second. Yeah.
Quick check on Warren Beatty. Yeah, he's 87 now, I think. That's hard.
Yeah, he's got a birthday coming up this month, I think.
Oh, so he'll be 87, I think.
No, he's going to be 88.
He's going to be 88. Holy moly.
So
he'll always be young in my eyes.
Yeah. Crazy. He was probably like 40 when this film was made. And
wow.
Interesting enough, though, I remember there's a book that I have, and it's called Fantastic Television by Gary Girani, which was a awesome book, resource material book for sci-fi. Well, it was called Fantastic Television, but science fiction and fantasy. And Warren Beatty had done an episode of One Step Beyond, I believe it was, or was it Chiller? Man, I'm slipping. I think I got too much anesthesia, Ross. I'm the memory cells, the recall is not what it used to be from like 2.5 weeks ago. But anyway, there's a photo, and I was like, oh my God, Warren Beatty was actually doing like, television. I think it was Alcoa Presents, which is One Step Beyond. I think he was in that. And I thought that was kind of interesting because, a lot of the actors back in the day, they got their start in television, and then they went on to do movies, and they stayed with the movies. And then it wasn't until like maybe the 80s and the 90s where a lot of them would come back to television.
Right.
Yeah. So, yeah.
So, they're good.
Here's another shot. And this was at the end when, yeah, John. Okay, John's got my back. Yeah, it was one. Okay, thanks, John. It was One Step Beyond. Yeah, and this to me was kind of sad because he was really trying to convince hint, Jack Warden's character, Max Corkle, that he was Joe, and he was like reciting all these examples of everything. And then what happens is when he's trying to have a conversation with them, and then everything hit switch where he forgot everything. He's being interviewed by Dick Enberg. You remember Dick Enberg back from the day, the NBC announcer for sports, for sportscasting. And he actually had like a sports show on too. But as Mr. Jordan is fading, then his memory fails, and then he just believes he's he's in the body of that quarterback.
Right, he settles into his new life, right?
His new life, yeah. Tom, I think his name was.
Yeah, there's a very similitude with the, as you say, with the sportscasters. Brian Gumbel was shown on television. The Los Angeles Rams, he used real players. So that, if you were a sports guy, you would recognize kind of the milieu that he was moving in. It really was the Los Angeles Rams, and they filmed it during a halftime of a game with the Rams. Yes. and who were they playing? Because they staged the game because they needed the crowd. They couldn't assemble this crowd of 15,000 people or whatever it was for the movie. So they had 17 minutes to film the football footage.
I thought that was pretty cool. I think it was with the Buccaneers?
The Chargers.
The Chargers. I'm sorry.
It was the Chargers and the Rams. It was a preseason game. It was. But through some stroke of irony, a few years later, the Rams actually did face off against the Steelers in the Super Bowl, as they do in the movie. And the Rams lost. Exactly. Which was kind of interesting. Sue commented and said, "I think I have that fantastic television book you spoke of." Yeah, it was a great resource. And Bill just looked it up, and yes, One Step Beyond, The Visitor. Yeah, and that's right. Joan Fontaine was in that episode with Warren Beatty. Yes. Yeah. Okay. Now, thanks for that, Bill. And Bill Scarrato said, "Oh, here's a good question. Does anybody remember when Warren Beatty was in The Many Loves of Dobie Gillis?" You mean that there was actually Warren Beatty, was with Bob Denver? And
yeah, that's kind of cool.
This is when worlds collide. No, I don't remember that.
That's very cool. No, I did not know that. Thanks for sharing that, Bill.
Wow.
Excellent tidbit.
So he must have gotten into the bigger movies right after that then.
Yeah. Well, he did. His first film was in '61, and that was was it Splendor in the Grass?
Splendor in the Grass, yeah.
He was in that, and then also he did Bonnie and Clyde in '67 with Faye Dunaway, Michael J. Pollard, Gene Hackman.
That one's a classic. Yeah, and Gene Wilder is in a short bit of it. Yeah, yeah. That's going to be his most enduring film, probably. Interestingly, he did get nominated, as you said, for director, for screenwriter, for producer, and for actor, which is the first time any person had done that since Orson Welles was Citizen Kane.
I was going to say, and Bill Scarrato is a huge Orson Welles fan. So yeah, and that, to your point, Ross, with that, I mean, that's pretty prestigious that had never been done since Orson Welles had that done.
But it happened again when he did Reds in '81. He got nominated for all four of them again, and he won for Best Director and Best Picture. And he only directed something like 5.
He did not do a lot, and I shared an interview with you, and I should probably share it with the folks out there. I can put it on after the show. That he's he talks about his career, and I forget the interviewer's name. You remember?
Mankiewicz, Ben Mankiewicz from
Ben Mankiewicz, yes. And he even references, and he says, "You really haven't done a lot." And he said, "What you've done has been, pretty amazing," but he said, "You haven't done a lot." And then he, comments, and he says, "Well, he likes, life and living," and he wound up marrying Annette Bening, and they've been married since 1992. So that's 33 years. I mean, again, we're not going to get into Warren Beatty's, personal life, but it was just that it was the reputation that, he was never going to settle down. You'd always hear, this one and that one and whatever, but it's like when he wound up with Annette Bening, that was pretty much that. And I think they have 4 children together, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah.
Okay.
But there you go.
Awesome. Yeah.
Now, I was trying to come up with the Star Trek connection with this. Now, in regards to, like to say all roads lead to Star Trek, there is no direct connection per se in regards to the, any crossovers in regards to actors or, directors or, musicians. However, it was interesting because I was trying to ponder this and I came up with this. And for the folks out there that remember the Star Trek: The Next Generation episode, Tapestry, it's where Picard is thought to have died, and then because of a he has a mechanical heart, and no pun intended with all that. And then what happens is they beam him up out of the planet that he's on, where the explosion, it's like a mind device goes off. But anyway, he finds himself in the afterlife, so to speak, with Q greeting him like in the clouds. So there's that kind of it's a reach as far as a connection, but there's sort of a connection with that. John's saying he's so vain.
Yeah.
Harley Simon, yes.
Right.
So anyway, that's what I came up in regards to that.
Cool. Yeah, I'm trying to think of the movie that Elaine May directed, and I think she did The Heartbreak Kid with Charles Grodin.
Okay.
But she was a comedy partner with Mike Nichols, the director, the guy who did The Graduate and went on to do a lot of big movies. But she was blamed for the box office failure of a movie. And I can't remember if it was a Heartbreak Kid or if it was something else where they wouldn't allow her to direct anymore. So she kind of just worked as a writer. She did script doctor and she wrote screenplays and that sort of thing. But her big return to directing was actually Ishtar. Was like, I think Beatty went to bat for her by being in that movie. And of course it was a colossal failure.
I didn't see it, but I did read about their collaboration with that.
Yeah,
and I was and reading about her because she was an actress and she was, like you said, a comedian and everything too.
Yeah, very talented, but just bad luck. And it wasn't like, well, who knows what the business is like now, but it was very unusual that for a woman to be directing feature films at that point.
Right. Thanks.
Not doing Ishtar, but back in the early 70s. Yeah.
Much appreciated. Thank you. And Bill is also saying, speaking of heaven, was Picard in heaven or hell with Q? Yeah, right. Yeah, so you hear about these type of scenarios where writers and directors collaborate, and it's not limited to one picture, because if things are really clicking and they do future projects, and this is an example of him working with her.
Yeah. For as supposedly demanding as he was, or difficult, because he knew he wanted what he wanted. You know what I mean? Right. He seemed to have a very loyal team. And he was loyal to them. He would bring people back from picture to picture, and so he must not have been terrible to work with.
Yeah. Bill also said, Ishtar, saw it in the movies and I thought I wasted my money.
Yeah, it's a shame, because it was supposed to be kind of a reworking of kind of the Bing and Bob, Bing Crosby, Bob Hope road picture.
Okay.
Kind of deals, but I remember the budget was so huge, and it was universally panned. I've never seen it, but I kind of feel bad for everybody involved. Even though they all made way more money than I'll ever make.
Yeah, right. I hear you on that.
Still feel bad for him.
But we've talked about, I was going to say, in regards to the directors, this again, it's to Warren Beatty and Buck Henry. We've really pretty much covered them both in regards to what they've done and their careers. You mentioned Reds, Ross. I remember seeing that at the Easton Eric, and that was actually, believe it or not, that came out in 1981. That is the last film that I've seen in the movie theater where there was an intermission. I don't think I saw a movie after that. Or since then, that had an intermission.
You have to go see The Brutalist.
The Brutal. Okay, I
The
didn't see
Brutalist has an intermission. Well, they don't. They have movies long enough to have intermissions now. They just don't put the intermissions in.
Yeah.
They just make you sit there for 3 hours. But yeah, the Brutalist I think is 3.5 hours. I haven't seen it yet, but it's got an intermission.
It does have an intermission, but yeah.
Yeah,
I remember liking Reds too. I thought that was very well done.
I liked it too. I want to watch it again. Yeah.
In regards to the music composer Dave Grusin.
Yeah, Dave Grusin is. I'm sure there are plenty of people out there that, to me, he's always like one of the composers of the '80s. You know, he did the Goonies. I'm sure there'll be a lot of people out there who'd be like, "Oh yeah, the Goonies."
The Goonies.
And you know, but he got his, you know, his early projects. He worked on The Graduate with you know, with which Buck Henry was involved. He did the score for 3 Days of the Condor, which I know you and I both watched fairly recently.
I really like that movie. That's really good.
Yeah, and he worked. I remember he did On Golden Pond. He did Tootsie. Yeah, he's a very recognizable composer. He started out. He was born in Colorado. His dad was from Latvia. He was a Latvian Jewish violinist, and his mother was a pianist. And his brother is a music producer and keyboardist, and his name I think was Dan Grusin, I don't know if he's still alive. Oh, Don Grusin. Don Grusin is his brother. So he himself studied composition at the University of Colorado Boulder. All I really know about are the movies that he scored. It's kind of funny because you know what he was up against. I mean, this is the 70s.
Right.
This is when they had, it's not like now. I mean, back then they had, the competition was Jerry Goldsmith,
John Williams
for Boys from Brazil, right? Ennio Morricone for Days of Heaven, John Williams for Superman.
Yep.
And the film that won that year, of course, was Midnight Express. Giorgio Moroder, who's probably the least qualified of the of the five scores.
Midnight Express wasn't Charles Grodin in that?
No, it's Midnight Run.
Midnight Run.
This is the one that's set in Turkish prison.
Okay, sorry about that.
With the guy who plays, what's his name, Paul Smith or whatever. The guy who plays Bluto and Popeye. He's like the sadistic warden or whatever at the Turkish prison. Hamidou. Yeah, it's a very intense movie. I remember my stepfather says, "Hey, you want to watch?" It was Christmas Eve, and he says, "Hey, you want to watch Midnight Express? Midnight Express is on." It's like, oh yeah, what a great Christmas
that's right up there with whatchamacallit, the Omega Man, Ross.
Oh my God, yeah, yeah. Just for the scene where the guy gets his tongue bit out. But anyway, yeah. There's all kinds of good stuff in that movie. It's okay. Yeah, it was an intense movie for the time. But I just don't get you know what it is? I think that they just threw up their arms and said, after John Williams had won for Star Wars, it was already his third Oscar, in the 70s.
Jaws,
and they said, we got to give it to somebody else. Yeah. So, but they didn't give it to Dave Grusin. They gave it to Giorgio Moroder.
Oh, geez.
So yeah, he was nominated for Heaven Can Wait, for The Champ. You remember the remake of The Champ with Ricky Schroeder and John Voight?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's another film from the 30s. The original.
Right.
On Golden Pond, Fabulous Baker Boys.
Oh, wow.
Havana, which had Robert Redford, and The Firm.
The Firm.
He finally won for Milagro Beanfield War in 1989. It seems like a recent movie to me. I don't think maybe I did see it. I don't think I saw it. I didn't see it in the theater, but it doesn't seem like it's 1989. It seems like a more recent movie to me. But so that's what I got on Dave Grusin. He's still alive. He's 90 years old.
Wow. God bless him.
So, good for him.
That's great.
Yeah, but so Heaven Can Wait didn't really, got a lot of nominations, but didn't really take home a lot. It almost Deer Hunter and Coming Home. Yeah.
Again, there was nine films there, or excuse me, 9 nominations, and the fact that it only took one, that had to be somewhat disappointing. But
I thought it was interesting that during practice there, when they were playing that Baroque piece on the saxophone, they were playing a Handel for that montage where he was there, and Remember they had that weird Baroque thing with the saxophone and the piano playing. They didn't have the musicians on camera, but on the soundtrack. I was trying to like figure out what they were playing. It was Handel.
Oh, okay. No, I didn't realize
Sonata.
that.
Yeah.
Hey, I want to say hi to John Marston. John, welcome. Good to see you out there, John. I hope you're doing well. He said, hi, Roy. Dave Grusin did a bunch of great TV themes like It Takes a Thief and The Name of the Game. Oh, very cool.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, very, very, very much. He did. He worked on a lot of episodic television. He did episodes. He worked on Ghost and Mrs. Muir, the TV series.
Sure.
I think he did some Man from U.N.C.L.E., which seems early.
Well, that's very similar to Johnny Williams.
Yeah,
and also and I'm again the brain cells here. We interviewed him from Star Trek, and he and sadly he's passed away. Gerald Fried. Gerald Fried had done a lot of Gilligan's Islands. Obviously, he did Star Trek. He did a lot of other episodic television as well. So just to name a couple of things off the top of my head, but It Takes a Thief, that was with RJ, Robert Wagner,
right,
and Malachi Thorne. And I forget who was in The Name of the Game, but anyway, thanks, John, for sharing that.
I keep wanting to say he did the. I don't know who did the music for Saint Elsewhere or ER. Who did that?
I honestly don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either. Yeah. Somebody will know, but
yeah. But that's one of my biggest disappointments. I was just having this conversation. I think it was. Sherry and I were talking to Deb Jacoby about this.
It was James Newton Howard. Sorry. Yeah.
One of my biggest disappointments about episodic television now is a lot of TV shows do not have themes. It's something that they did away with because they pretty much have utilized that time for story content, and it's a shame because to me it really helps to define the shows. And as you know, we did that. Remember when we did the television themes about maybe 3 years ago, and it was right around this time. It was in March. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's either like that or it's the post Game of Thrones where it's oh, it's Game of Thrones. Oh no, wait a minute, it's Westworld. Oh no, it's Shogun, or it's The Crown.
Yeah.
Come up with a theme, guys.
Exactly. Thanks for sharing, Bill. Appreciate it. In regards to The Name of the Game. But and then what was I gonna say? I'm gonna flip back a little bit. So we covered Dave Grusin. Thanks for that too, Ross, for that info in regards to him. Appreciate it.
It was nothing. Basically a list of films. I didn't have a lot of biographical.
No, but it was.
But it's interesting. This family was musical.
Good information.
And he was first generation. The parents came from or at least his dad came from Latvia. I'm not sure if his mom was born here or if she came from Europe also.
Bill said Name of the Game LA 2017, another one that time has passed. Yeah, 17 is 8 years ago already. It's crazy. One of the things that we've been doing on the show, haven't been doing it sporadically, is in regards to a nod to Walter Cronkite from back in the day. That's the way it was. This film was released on June 28, 1978. So just a couple of tidbits of information. The number one songs in June of 1978 were Too Much, Too Little, Too Late by Johnny Mathis and Denise Williams. You're the One That I Want, John Travolta and Olivia Newton-John, which would have been from Grease. Shadow Dancing, Andy Gibbs. And With a Little Luck by Wings. And then in regards to the films, number one movie at the time in June of 78 was Grease. 2 was Heaven Can Wait. Jaws 2 was the third. Damien, Omen 2 being the fourth. And then, of course, Capricorn 1, which we covered on the show several years back. So just for all the classics, Ross.
Was another one that I forgot when I was talking about the Neo screwball comedies. Arthur with Dudley Moore.
Christopher Cross did the music for that, the opening theme anyway. Yeah,
which which kind of had like a little bit in common with this because it was also a rich guy.
I love that movie. I mean, it's not a sci-fi film or really like a fantasy film, but I really, I always love that movie, and I love that score. In fact, Bill Scrotto had when he was doing his radio program. In fact, I remember requesting him to play that song because Arthur's theme was the #1 song in. I was saying 79, but that's not right. That was 10. Arthur came out in 81, right? I think.
I thought it was still 70s, but it could have been. It could have been 81.
I'm thinking it was 81. No, it was 80s. It was definitely 80s. I'm gonna go with 81.
Could be.
That's my final answer, Ross.
No, it could very well be. Yeah, it is 81.
Was it?
Yeah.
Yeah. I was pretty sure it was.
But you were talking about the Christopher Cross song. You're not talking about the orchestral or instrumental theme that they played, because it really reminded me a lot of the theme that they played in Heaven Can Wait, the gruesome theme.
Yeah, I can see that. Or I could hear that.
Yeah. But anyway.
But yeah, so overall, I mean, this was a great movie to discuss. I mean, the way we came about it again was because of the title, Heaven Can Wait. So very, very pleased about that. One of the other things we didn't talk about, though, is in regards to Julie Christie's character, Betty. There were other considerations that he was actually looking at for being in that role, and Dyan Cannon was one of them. Mary Sternberger.
Steenburgen, yeah.
Yeah, and then they ultimately went with Julie Christie. And then
Mary Steenburgen. She would have been good in the part. I don't think Dyan Cannon would have been as good. He did work with her finally in Reds, and I think they were involved then too at that point. Funny to go from Woody Allen to Warren Beatty, but that's the trajectory. Yeah.
So we'll have to do another Julie Christie movie, and this is the big lead up. We could do the movie that she did maybe the year before this film, which was Demon Seed.
You've been trying to get me to do Demon Seed for a couple of years now. Yeah. This is a little insight to the process, folks. You just want to do Demon Seed, and I say no.
Roy, you want to do Santa Claus Conquers the Martians? No. Sherry's commenting, yes. Also, the football players were mostly real players. Yes, and that's a great point, Sherry. In regards to that, there were a lot of cameos for folks that were in this film. And I'm trying to tell you who those cameos were, but I'm not as quick-witted as I'd like to think I am.
Yeah. I wouldn't know any of the real players. Yeah, I knew the broadcasters, but I didn't know the players.
Yeah, like I said, I was pretty excited when I saw Dick Enberg, because I was like, I know who that is. But no, it was good. Hold on one second, bro. No, I don't have it. I thought I did, because I actually had wrote down some of the professional names of the of some of those guys, but I don't have them ready available. So there you go.
Another example of the 30s and 40s impact, of course, of Star Wars. On the 70s, I'm saying, because it was originally supposed to be a Flash Gordon movie,
right?
But they couldn't afford the rights for it or whatever. But and then later, talking about 81, Raiders of the Lost Ark again was a throwback. These people were all nostalgic for the stuff they were watching when they were kids. And Spielberg's one of his longtime ambitions was to remake A Guy Named Joe, which was a movie from the 40s. He remade it as always with Richard Dreyfuss and Holly Hunter, and John Good.
Yeah, and that's a really amazing team right there too. I mean, as far as actors are concerned.
Yeah, Spencer Tracy was in the original one.
Spencer Tracy, yeah. So overall, Ross, did you you really like this film?
I liked it. I liked it when I saw it in the theater too. And yeah, I mean, I would veer toward really liked it. I don't think it's like a world beating classic, but
Right.
I like it. Yes, I would watch it again.
Yeah, which is pretty cool.
Yeah. I'd watch it again in another 40 years.
Dr. Zhivago, yes.
Zhivago.
Julie Christie was in Dr. Zhivago. Yes, exactly. So, alrighty. Well, with that said, folks, we're going to wind it down. I'm going to go to the shout outs real quickly. If you have any last minute comments you want to post out, and I'm talking over Ross when he says, "Uh-oh, shout outs."
No. Well, I was thinking about she was in Don't Look Now with Donald Sutherland.
Oh, now was that in the early 70s?
Yeah. So
Okay.
it's a
Gotcha.
great horror movie based on a story by the woman who wrote Rebecca, du Maurier, Daphne du Maurier.
Oh, okay.
Who wrote Rebecca and the Birds.
The Birds.
Yeah.
Another good movie. Mm-hmm. So, first off, I was talking about Bill Scarrato being out there. So, Country Gate Theater, folks, if you are in the Harmony, Belvedere area, just want to give you the information to check out Country Gate for live theater. And Country Gate is going to be doing an incredible show, which is going to be between the dates of May 31st and June 8th. If you go to the website, which is www.countrygate.org. And then also, you can also go to Bill's website, personal website, which is www.billscrotto.com. And Death of a Salesman will be between May 31st and June 8th. So definitely bookmark that, especially if you're in the Belvedere Harmony area of New Jersey, or the Lehigh Valley.
Willie Loman.
And also want to give a shout out to Mike and Mary Beth of Sci-Fi Distilled. Now, they're not going to be on this Wednesday at 7 p.m., so there's not going to be any show this week. They will be back the following week. So stay tuned, and once we know what they're doing, we'll put a post up for that later next week. So just so you know. And a shout out to Captain Phil for Captain Phil's Planet, WUSB 90.1 FM, Stony Brook, New York. The captain's schedule is on alternating Thursdays from 4 to 5 p.m. And he's also on Friday nights, which is like now, between 9 and 11:30 p.m. So. And I also want to give a shout out to Jeffrey Morris for the Eagle Obsession documentary, which will be released this year. For information, updates in regards to the movie, you can go to www.eagledocumentary.com. And that, again, is going to be released this year. Looking pretty fantastic. Also, I want to give a shout out to Lou that is out there, Lou Place, for the film that he did. And it is called Found in Space. It's the latest film by Lou. So if Lou wants to share that, please, you can do so in the comment section, Lou, to give a link so folks can check it out as well. And it was definitely a fun production to do. And that was last year. Time is going by. Also, in regards to Star Trek Original Series Set Tour, William Shatner is coming back up to Ticonderoga, folks. He will be there June 27th, 28th, and 29th. Mark your calendars. The website for that is going to be www.startrektour.com. William Shatner is going to be turning 94 on March 22nd. So his birthday is right around the corner, and he is not slowing down. So if you haven't had the opportunity to see him, this is a great opportunity for you to get to see him. So definitely mark your calendars for that. Also, been doing a weekly podcast with my friend Warren for it's called Space 1999. This episode, it is not going to be released this week. We're taking a break because for recouping and everything. But we should probably be dropping another episode next week, which will be episode 19, which is the Troubled Spirit. And we're actually in the fourth quarter of the first season. So there's only 6 more episodes for us, actually 5 episodes for us to do. And the Troubled Spirit will be the next one up. So stay tuned on that. And also want to give a shout out to my son, Ryan, Run by Ryan, Empower Your Run. He is provides a coaching service, And you can check it out by going to www.runbyryan.com. There's different tiers. To sign up, it is free. There's no charge for it. But if you want to go to different levels of, his expertise, definitely check out the website, and you'll find out more information about that. Also, want to give a shout out to Martha from Studio One Thrift. Studio One Thrift is at 115 Clinton Lane in Strasburg, PA. Studio One Thrift showcases a fantastic lineup for all seasons, all year long. Quality, stylish, affordable clothing for both men and women. Martha does a wonderful job as far as giving styling updates and just working with you for, the look that you'll want. Definitely, if you have the opportunity, and again, you're in the Strasburg area, check it out. And she's very passionate about this. So again, the website is www.studio1thrift.com. And then also, Ross, if you can let everybody know what you've got going on.
All right, these are my 3 recorded shows. Picture Perfect's the movie music show. It's on right now for the next 20 minutes. I'm focusing this week on Doreen Carwithen, who was the first English woman to write film scores, starting back in 1946. So I have music by her and her longtime lover and eventually husband, William Alwyn, on Picture Perfect tonight. So that goes until 9 o'clock. Sweetness and Light's my light music program. That's tomorrow morning at 11 o'clock Eastern. And that'll be all female composers for Women's History Month. I've got music from the United States, from England, from France, and from Venezuela. The Lost Chord tomorrow night is in celebration of Early Music Month. March is Early Music Month. So it's all music by 20th and 21st century composers. Are they all American? They're all American composers, and they all look back to the Renaissance. So it's music inspired by the Renaissance, written by contemporary composers on the Lost Chord tomorrow night. That's the URL, kwax.uoregon.edu. It's from the University of Oregon. I tease these things on my Facebook page at Classic Ross Amico. So tomorrow morning I'll post something about Sweetness and Light, and you can just follow the link if you want to listen at 11 o'clock. That's it. Thanks, Roy.
Oh, absolutely, Ross. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. So I just want to let everybody know that we will actually, I'm going to be back this coming Thursday. It's going to be a special night, special day, and it is going to be Thursday, March 13th at 7 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. And I stress Eastern Daylight Time because this weekend we are going to be losing an hour as we turn the clocks ahead. So daylight savings time is going to go into full effect. So with that said,
is that this weekend?
It is this weekend, yeah.
Good thing you let me know.
Yeah, so Saturday night you're going to lose an hour, Ross, but you're going to gain an hour's worth of sunlight. So it's the
my favorite.
I know. Oh shoot!
Okay.
Gotta chill out again because I'm laughing.
Sorry to digress. I didn't realize it was this weekend.
Yeah, it's this weekend. So anyway, just to let everybody know, I am going to be welcoming back to the show John Kenneth Muir, who is the writer, producer, director, and one of the actors starring in his web series, which is called Abnormal Fixation. He just dropped the series. The first season just completed. The final episode. There were 6 episodes in the series in this first season, and it was just dropped on Thursday. So if you haven't checked it out, I've been actually putting information on the show's page for it. Definitely check it out. It is a brilliant combination of comedy, drama, and it's fun. It's a little bit of the absurd, but it definitely will make you smile and make you laugh, and deals with the paranormal too. So anyway, John is going to be joined by Alyssa Martin and Chris Martin, who are 2 also actors that are in the series with John. And I'm going to have them on the show, and we're going to be talking about the first season that just completed, and also information in regards to the second season that's going to be hopefully coming up too. So we'll be discussing that again. Special night. It's going to be Thursday, March 13th at 7 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. So that's what we have for that. And just to let everybody else know too, we do have some other stuff that's going to be coming up. Unfortunately, we were going to be celebrating David Frankham's birthday and David celebrated his 99th birthday, and which was very, very special. I was going to have David on the day of his birthday, but of course, with everything that happened with me and everything, it was better just to postpone it. That is going to be coming up in probably the next couple weeks ahead. I will let everybody know what the date is going to be and it'll be fantastic to have David as well as Jonathan on to discuss. Also looking to do probably a special episode on March 23rd. It'll be Sunday night, just to celebrate William Shatner's 94th birthday. Going to pretty much maybe do favorite movies or favorite television shows or episodes, something along the lines. I'll get more specific once I kind of iron it out, but I just want to give the folks out there a heads up in regards to that. So that's something to look forward to. And we'll kind of open that up to discussion for that. Also, I do have a special interview that was recorded about a year and a half ago that I'm going to be putting up on the show's page. I'll keep that as a surprise. It is with an actress that is from classic Star Trek. So definitely want to put that out there. So stay tuned. That will be probably happening. And then also, of course, the show's anniversary, the year anniversary date of Roy's Tie-Dye Sci-Fi Corner, when all this started, was on April 3rd of 2020. So the fifth year anniversary of the show is rapidly approaching, which I'm very excited about, and definitely morphed along, with different titles of the show. And of course, Ross and I have been doing this for we've been doing this for almost close to 4.5 years together, because Ross came on in June. So, which, definitely has made the show what it is today. So it's just very, very special. And I'm so excited that 5 years is like banging on our door, something that started, during COVID. So I'm very excited about that as well, too. Just wanted to share. And more importantly, just happy to be back, but definitely having to take it slow, because I definitely am in the healing mode for sure. So,
oh, come on. You've gone the distance, Roy. We're almost at 2 hours. You did the shout outs. You did the plot. You're fine.
Yeah, but I got it all done before 9 o'clock, Ross. So.
You'll just sleep for 48 hours now.
Russ is getting his revenge. He's making me laugh. I gotta grab my pillow. Ow.
Through the mouth, Roy. Through the mouth.
Through the mouth. Yeah, it was you and Edwin. You were on the no, don't make Roy laugh list.
yeah, I had to be real careful for a couple of weeks. Not to
oh boy. So anyway, I just want to thank everybody. Again, I don't want to be too repetitious, but just thanks for all the concern and everything in regards to myself, my mom, family, and just for reaching out. It just means the world, and it definitely was very helpful knowing, and definitely it was all appreciated. Positive energy, positive thoughts, prayers, and the whole list. It's a lot to digest, but moving forward, and the days from the operation will get behind me, and just have to concentrate on the rehab and doing the exercises and the walking, which I've been told is so important. So just concentrating on that. But yes, doing the digression, Jeff Rubel. And hi Dennis, I see that you're out there too, so thanks for coming on, Dennis. And Dennis is in Canada. So anyway, thank you again, folks. Ross, any final words?
No, I mean, I'm happy that you're doing so well, Roy. I mean, it's it hasn't even been a week, and you sounded tired when I talked to you. So you sound completely your old self now. So that's good.
Yeah, getting there.
You probably couldn't take my best shot yet, but
no, please don't, because God knows what'll come out. It's
like John Hurt in Alien.
Yeah, chest burster. Yeah,
you don't want that.
No,
but I'm glad you're doing so well.
No, thanks. It's just very sore in the chest, but otherwise, one day at a time. That 1975 television series from the 70s, so it's appropriate.
Is that the one with Schneider?
It is the one with Schneider. Yes.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Bonnie Franklin, Mackenzie Phillips, Valerie Bertinelli. What was his name? Oh my God. Pat Harrington Jr.
Right.
Schneider.
Yeah.
David Missour, David Missour.
Was he
David Major. I'm sorry.
Okay.
He played the boyfriend, Anne
Yeah.
Romano's boyfriend.
I dislike that show.
Oh, I used to watch that show. You know, interesting story. I actually ran into when I lived up in Strasbourg in the 90s, ran into Mackenzie Phillips. Because she was up there for some time, and I was walking down on Main Street, and I just happened to look up, and she gave me such a warm smile, and she said hi, and I gave her a warm smile back and said hi, and she was just, it was just, very, very nice. So
it was a sliding doors moment, Roy.
All roads lead to Mackenzie Phillips, right? The mamas and the papas. Anyway, well, with that said, folks, as we always like to say, live long and prosper. And thank you for tuning in. And we look forward to seeing you on Thursday, March 13th, and to discuss abnormal fixation. So until then, have a great weekend. Don't forget to set your clocks, and take care, everybody.